Hello, this is Chiron's Cave, and my name's Aaron.
And I'm Susan. Thanks for
And-
listening.
Yep, and we're here for another episode, which I think is the 20th. I think it will be the 20th episode, which is a milestone. Because as you told me, only 50% of podcasts make it past 20 episodes. Is that what
I want to say 20%. That the statistic I heard was like 80% of podcasts don't make it past 20 episodes, I think. Yeah.
Cool.
So.
And I think maybe that has to do with people starting podcasts thinking they're going to be some great sensation and everybody's going to be listening. And then like 20 episodes later, like crickets. It's like nobody's listening.
Right.
You know, except for like a friend or two, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, you know, which we came into this knowing it was going to be a year of just thankless. Nobody's going to listen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was wise, I feel like.
Right. Definitely. Like, and our motive for doing it was not, it was actually almost the antithesis of any potential prestige, right? Like the idea of prestige from a podcast it seems a little folly. And instead, I think our motive, whether it ever is, you know, popular or not, but the motive for doing it is to develop the conversation around astrology and myth and, you know, to some extent Hillman and Jung and how they all connect and really create something that is a work of or a body of work through the discourse, through the dialogue. And even the topic that you mentioned for today, it's interesting because for the construction of meaning, we need language and we need symbols and we need this kind of discourse, I think, you know. So to be able to just share that, I think is for me, a worthy motive, more so than prestige or we're going to be famous by the time we hit 20 episodes, you know. And I think you probably have a similar or parallel motive in wanting to do Chiron's Cave, you know, even if it's not the exact same as mine, but
Well, we're doing this anyway. Like we were doing this anyway.
Right.
We were both compelled to sort of mutually explore all these subjects anyways. And obviously we feel like it's compelling. We're always energized by the conversation. So it just seems like, yeah, we should just, why not? In today's, you know, Uranus and Gemini world and Pluto and Aquarius, like, you know, why not? And so, so then there's this piece I'm going to read, which is from the James Hillman's Archetypal Psychology Uniform Edition, Volume 1. And so there's, I believe, 10 volumes in this. I'm not sure if it's like his complete work. I don't think it's his complete work because he's got books that he wrote. And this is, I think it's like everything that wasn't that, maybe. I don't know. But the first volume it starts anyway as there was an Encyclopedia Britannica Italian edition. And that's what this started as. This volume. Right. So part 1 is a brief account. And interestingly, the prefatory note was written by Klaus Ottman, who is now the editor of probably was Well, he's the editor for Spring Publishing, who is the person that I emailed to get permission to read the Hephaestus um,
Wow. Huh.
essay,
Uh-huh.
right? And he wrote the prefatory note for the first volume of this uniform edition by James Hillman.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
then I ran into Murray Stein again, who wrote that article
Mm.
for uh for the is Facing the Gods, I think was the book that Hillman edited.
Uh-huh.
I ran into Murray Stein again because he translated um a Carl Carigny book that I just got on Athena. So it's
Uh-huh.
like this circle of men who were, and obviously Klaus Ottman,
Mm-hmm.
I, he must be involved with this circle of people. I mean, now that he's the editor of Springs Publishing.
Right.
Anyway,
Right. No, I
it,
think that's interesting synchronicity too. And you can tell from his writing, like in Facing the Gods, um, from because I got the copy of that and because I wanted, there's a lot of good essays that are in there. I haven't read all of them, but that he is highly influenced by Hillman. Wouldn't you say it's kind of apparent in his writing? Um,
Murray Stein,
uh, yeah, yeah,
the writer who wrote Hephaestus, A
right,
Pattern
yeah,
of Introversion.
right, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's like they were a group,
Uh huh.
like a think tank, I would
Right.
say, right?
Okay.
And like
Right.
in archetypal psychology, I feel like
Uh huh.
is what that is. Carl Carigny is like that's who they were reading. He's
Mm-hmm.
the guy, best I can tell, he's a German who like wrote about Greek myth from depth psychology, from perspective of depth psychology. So
Right.
this is who all these guys were reading. They were reading Carl Carigny's work.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of like a Carl Carigny is kind of like a C.G. Jung,
Mm-hmm.
figure.
Right. Yeah.
It would be, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
For
but
the
anyways, I find it interesting.
for
So,
the.
but to back to this volume one, James Hillman volume one
Mhm.
for the uniform edition. And what was he doing? The project was that James Hillman for this Italian encyclopedia was defining what archetypal psychology is. That's what this volume one is. It's James Hillman defining it.
Mhm.
And so there's two parts. The first part I think is just the entry. It's 72 pages, and I'm pretty sure. I feel like it's just the whole thing is just what the entry for that encyclopedia was, but I'm not sure it'd be 72 pages long. I'm not quite positive on all that, but anyways, then there's like in the middle of this volume, then it's just like 50 pages of all of the works done in archetypal psychology. So it's
Mhm.
like this is the club, this is what you study, this is if you're going to study archetypal psychology. It's like the middle of this volume is just like 50 pages of just sources of
Mhm.
further study, which
Mhm.
I've never seen before in a book. It's interesting. Like, but
Yeah.
this whole thing is just defining archetypal psychology. It's volume one, right, of the uniform edition.
Right.
And so then after that, then there's another section, uh, which starts with an essay, Why Archetypal Psychology. And then the next one is psychology monotheistic or polytheistic. And I think
Mm.
this is like a really famous defining standalone essay that Hillman wrote.
Mhm.
So I'm going to read just the first paragraph of that because what I'm going to read from is actually this it's called Psychology Monotheistic or Polytheistic 25 years later.
Mm. Okay.
Hillman went back and wrote about that essay
Mhm.
25 years later. So, because originally he wrote it in 1971, he wrote Psychology, Monotheistic or Polytheistic. This is
Mhm.
what he said. This is just the first paragraph of what he said for that initial essay in 1971.
Mhm.
So, in the conclusion to his late work, uh, Ion, heavily preoccupied with Christian symbolism Jung writes, quote, "The anima animus stage is correlated with polytheism, the self with monotheism. Although he pays high respect to the noumena anima animus and
Mm.
conceives the self as a conjunction, he nevertheless also implies that as anima animus is a pre-stage of self, so is polytheism a pre-stage of monotheism. Moreover, the self is, quote, the archetype most important for modern man to understand, end quote."
Hmm.
That's how he starts that essay. So then when he comes back 25 years later, I'm going to read what the first paragraph he wrote on that. 25 years ago, my essay, Psychology, Monotheistic or Polytheistic, was a first attempt at revisioning depth psychology and its therapeutic practice, an attempt based upon very old, very tangled, and in some ways Florentine roots of Western culture. That essay placed the dilemmas of psychotherapy in a cosmological context prior to Freud's 19th century medical positivism and to Jung's romantic origins and influences. Yet it drew upon the same sources as they, the Greek and Roman mythic imagination, attempting to take these classical sources to their full implication by exposing the inevitable conflict of that mythical imagination with the dominant one of Western culture, that of the Bible. I referred to this conflict in the manner of usual scholarship as one between Hellenism and Hebrewism.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, and obviously, I mean, I could keep going, and I always want to keep going with him, but um, is this tracking? Are you
Yeah.
tracking
Yeah,
all
no,
this?
I'm drawing a lot of yes, I'm listening and I'm connecting. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so then what I want to read, all
Uh-huh.
of that to just
Uh-huh.
get to what I want to read, which is
Uh-huh.
like the last. It's section 5 because there's 5 sections of this essay.
Right.
The 25 years later,
Mhm.
and this would have been right 1996.
Right.
So I feel like this is like at the end of Hillman's academic career, because then he goes on and starts writing things like the Soul's Code,
Right.
right? He starts writing things that are more accessible to the general audience. He puts away, I feel like he puts away his pedantic Ivy League, high tower, focus
Mhm.
and starts speaking to a more general audience
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
general.
Mhm.
And so, but this is like but this would be like, and this is just, I mean, I guess you could say I'm becoming a scholar of Hillman, right? I haven't read all his work. I'm
Right.
working on it.
Mhm.
I think I'm probably going to read all this whole uniform edition, and I've read probably half of his books by now at this point. So, anyways, I don't know why. I guess why am I saying that? I'm saying that because I'm no expert on Hillman. I don't have letters behind my name.
Mhm.
Why do I need to say that? I don't know why. I don't need to say that.
To shock and awe people. Be like, "Oh,
Don't
you."
listen to me because I'm not educated.
No, it's like
I
people
don't
could be
know.
like, "What? You don't?" And then they have to start questioning their credentials because 'cause they're like, wait, he doesn't have credentials, but he does know this." So, it's good.
Well, right now, I mean, I'm just reading out of a book right now. So, like,
Yeah.
you
Right,
know.
right. Yeah.
Anyways,
Comments to follow. Right.
I didn't need to say all that. I'm working on it. I'm
Yeah,
trying to, like, I'm trying to just, I need to just work from my own authority
right.
and not worry about what everyone's going to think.
Yeah.
Hard to do when you're doing a podcast, though, right? Because, like, we're making this public. Anyways.
But the honesty of that is also relatable. So, you know,
Okay.
that's,
Yeah.
it's you yeah. Go ahead,
Me
Pisces, Venus. Yeah.
being humble, trying to be humble anyway,
Right. Yeah.
I suppose.
Transparent about the fact that,
Yeah.
which yeah, people can relate to. So, yeah.
Okay. So section 5.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, the whole thing is like 4 pages long.
Okay.
I would like to read it all, but I don't think maybe we will, but we'll do it in chunks.
Chunks. Okay. You wanna
maybe.
read and
So
then discuss and then maybe
yeah,
read and discuss? Well, maybe okay.
and then maybe all of this will come together
Yeah.
because I'm just winging this right now.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just I took some the way this came about is that I listened to the last recordings that we did,
Uh-huh.
which which would have been the last 2 episodes at this point that the listener will have listened to. So I listened
Uh-huh.
to those and just took a few notes
Right.
to just continue this discussion.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so the second note that I took was philosophy of pagan and matter with respect to the earth element.
Hmm. Mhm.
Um, and now that I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh no, the matter part. Because I'm not gonna read that part, and I'm not sure exactly where it is in here.
Uh-huh.
Oh god. So
Oh,
anyway, but I'll read the pagan part.
okay.
Okay, so this is Hillman again, Uniform Edition, Volume One, uh, archetypal psychology. Uh, sorry, no, psychology, monotheistic or polytheistic. 25 years later, Section
Mhm.
Five.
Mhm.
All along, I have been using the word pagan quite freely. I like the word for my own self-referent reasons, and it offers us another joke. One meaning of pagos in Sophocles and Euripides is, quote, rocky hill, end quote. Paganos, people of the rocky, hilly countryside. A pagan is therefore a hill man. I was like, wow,
Mm.
Hillman. He's pointing that out, right?
Mhm.
He's in a way here saying he's a pagan. Like my last name is pagan, right?
Mhm.
Hillman. So
Mhm.
the Latin paganus usually was used originally in several ways to refer to native peoples who were civilians and peasants and not members of an alien army. Pagan was used in distinction to others, particularly to the alieni, that is, members of foreign militia who came into native villages and towns throughout the Roman world, armies composed of Mithraic and many Christian soldiers. Thus, as one writer explains, pagani, or I don't know, is that pagan I? It's pagan with an I at the end.
Mm.
So it's probably Latin, right? Would be
Mhm.
pagan I.
Mhm.
Or pagans are quite simply people of the place, quote, right? People of the place,
Mm.
town or country who preserve their customs, whereas the alieni, the people from elsewhere, were increasingly Christian. This defines paganism as a religion of the homeland in its narrowest sense, the city and its outlying countryside, and it predicts the diversity of pagan practices and beliefs. This basic meaning, people of the place, opens one more. Okay, sorry, this is Hillman now.
Uh-huh.
This basic meaning, people of the place, opens one more radical distinction between the two cosmoi we are contrasting. The pagan mind will not submit easily to abstract universals, the logics of science, of mathematics, to general laws. It would find alien the idea of a one true and universal religion as the Roman Church has defined itself. It would be alienated by the placelessness of virtual reality in cyberspace, an internet of websites that is not actually cited, anywhere local and physical, and whose image are not attached to or framed by an environment. The pagan, as I understand its psychology, abjures universals altogether, including nationalism and ecumenicalism, unless they be qualified by the particular place where the universals are effective. That's why the ancient gods and goddesses were always place specific, with epithets that located them and brought out their specific local qualities. The Artemis of Hermes, the Artemis or Hermes or Apollo of one place was not the same Artemis and Hermes and Apollo of another. Hence, a diversity of pagan practices and beliefs. And I'll stop
Mhm.
there
Mhm.
because like I said, there's another few pages, like 2 pages to go.
Right. Yeah.
So, do you have any thoughts at this point on all that? To What are your
Well,
thoughts?
I wanna make sure that you have yes, I don't wanna take us off in a completely different direction, though, so I guess if possible, I would love you to just kinda share some of your thoughts about and what got triggered for you or what your thoughts were after you read that interested you.
Right. So what I'm gonna do now
Mhm,
is because this just happened right before we started.
mhm.
Because I wasn't planning on doing this before,
Right. Yeah.
and then I looked at
Okay.
my notes right before, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this pagan thing." And the matter thing is interesting too, and I want to bring that in because matter. It's about the philology of the word matter, which
Mhm,
means the Latin is mater, mater,
mhm, mhm.
which means mother,
Right, right.
material, and it goes back to Aristotle, who used this word hyle,
Mhm,
which means wood.
mhm,
It was the word they had that the Greeks had at the time for there wasn't a word for material.
mhm,
Hyle was the word that Aristotle used, and that word meant wood.
mhm.
Um, and there was a whole. So I'm just pulling this off of memory right now because
Right.
I thought the philology or the origin of the word matter,
Yeah.
and I drew a connection with pagan
Mhm,
at the time.
mhm.
So, but and I know I'm jumping all over. So here's the thing. This book that I haven't read yet
Mhm,
is written by Thomas More,
mhm.
who people may know of the author. He's the author of Care of the Soul. I guess that's listed here.
Right.
This book is The Planets Within, the Astrological Psychology of Marsilio Ficino.
Mm, mm,
I haven't read
yeah,
this book yet, but I'm like
yeah, yeah.
chomping at the bits to get at it.
Uh-huh.
Wendy brought home an interlibrary loan that's a 500-page book that I have to read now. So I'm
Mhm.
all backed up. But
Yeah.
in on the back of this book that I haven't
Mhm,
read yet,
mhm,
it's about Marsilio Ficino,
mhm.
who I know Hillman has referenced. I've seen him reference Ficino
Right.
100 times. I mean,
Yeah.
he was a student of Ficino's.
Mhm,
So this is
mhm.
what Hillman says about this book of Thomas More, Thomas More was uh he was a colleague, I believe. He may have been a student of Hillman's. I'm not sure exactly the relationship there, but I know Thomas Hillman has carried the torch for Hillman since,
Mhm, mhm.
I'm pretty sure he's still alive. But this is what Hillman says about this book, which is about astrological psychology,
Right,
which is
right.
interesting. I felt that was very interesting, right? Because Hillman,
Uh-huh.
I've not ever seen him come out and say, I'm an astrologer. So James
Right.
Hillman in this book, this is what says about on the back of the book, right? This is what he says. He says
Mhm,
the reader turning to this book for knowledge and self knowledge will be delighted to find it so instructive, enjoyable, and user friendly. With Tom Moore as guide, you will feel at home in the marvelous world of Renaissance Hermeticism, its psychological and astrological
hmm,
insights, its music, its madness. How much
mhm.
more knows and how generous he is in giving it to the reader. Okay,
And who says this? Who's actually
that
writing
was
that?
Hillman said that. James Hillman wrote that.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess
Yeah.
maybe now let me try to draw all of this together. So I guess in a way,
Yeah, I
what I'm doing is saying that this is what the horse's mouth Hillman had to say about archetypal psychology, and also it's saying because of this book, right, The Planets Within, uh, which is about
mhm,
the astrological psychology of Marsilio Ficino. Hillman is
mhm.
in the realm of astrology with his work.
Mhm.
It's not been I
Right.
haven't seen
Right.
it like said like that. And it's the same thing you see with Jung, right? It's like he never accepted
Mhm.
publicly that he was that he was consulting astrology in his work for his clients.
Mhm.
Um so
Mhm.
but but then
Yeah.
but then the pagan part. So it's like Hillman is polytheistic pagan. He's claiming that, right? Like literally, he's saying my last name means pagan.
Mhm. Mhm.
And people of the place
Mhm.
and the meaning of polytheism and why that's necessary.
I wanted to clarify something or like I guess add something in because um I've come across Ficino also, and I have not read I haven't read that book that who's the author? The
Thomas
inner
More.
Thomas More. Yeah. But so I just was kind of refreshing on this too with Ficino being credited for, and this is more, I guess, contextual background for the listener, that he was, if this is the same one you're talking about, the Renaissance philosopher
Yeah,
and priest, and that
Platon, even the
he,
Neoplatonist.
Neoplatonist, yeah, and so and music was really big for him, like music and like he believed in like the power of music to inhabit, but apparently he came up with the idea of spiritus, which is it
Hmm.
acted as almost like the concept of it acted as almost like the foundation for psychological astrology, even though
Hmm.
psychological astrology wasn't really around officially, but like the idea between this link between the body and the soul and that being kind of that spiritus idea was
Spiritus
laying.
Mundi. I just recently ran into that. It
Ah,
was a quote from Keats.
oh, really?
Yeah, in
The poet?
his yeah, in a poem he did that was about the apocalypse, I think.
Wow.
He coined the term spiritus mundi, apparently. Not to interrupt you, I just
Really? No, that's super cool and enriching. So, is it a short poem?
uh
Do you know? Do you
I don't
remember?
know because I
Okay.
ran into this the other day. I was researching the differences between soul and spirit, I think, but with
Ah.
reference to
Mhm,
anima mundi as
mhm,
soul
mhm,
and the world tree. I think I was
mhm.
thinking about the Earth's tilt, that the world tree is the Earth's tilt. Anyway, I'm
Yeah,
completely
yeah.
bogarting what you were just trying to say.
No, no, not at all. In fact, I just was gonna say if the poem was like a quick, now I wanna look that up, because, with, uh yeah, I mean, we've talked about kind of like image and poetry is a form of image, right? Like,
Yeah.
and Hillman believed that too, and so to get at the idea of something, sometimes a poem can be really a cool, like, synthesizing element, but yeah, in general, that he was kind of swimming in that same water of astrological psychology back in the 1400s, and the idea that like the positions of planets and the astrology could be connected to our psyche and our emotional states, and what we now know as kind of the unconscious, and the way that we structure meaning through the connection to our own individual unconscious. And not to go too far off here, but Corey was asking me this morning about, he said, well, when did like astrological, because he's not an astrologer, he doesn't study astrology or anything, but he said, when did they start doing astrological charts like for individuals,
Mm.
um and that when did that transition actually happen? And I mean, I know it was certainly active by the time Ficino was around, and but we didn't have this modern idea of psychology or the way that astrology as a language, and even going to like the structuralists and the post-structuralists, and and French theory, and how that connects to modern psychology. And like Jung was an offshoot of Freud, and so were the French theorists, and so that's kind of gotten my mind ablaze with the linguistic understanding of meaning and the unconscious, and then how different thinkers have moved and developed into different, very different directions. So it's I find it really fascinating too, as far as that connection point with the book that you brought up with Ficino, because in some ways, like Hermeticism and alchemy and conversations that we've kind of dipped our toe in around that are part of how we've come to understand astrology um, as a hermetic practice versus a um, platonic like rational pursuit, but anyway.
and of place, which is why I think
Mm,
which I'm just now
mm,
putting together, I think. Well,
okay,
I
yeah,
thought it
yeah,
before when I was reading this before. I was like, oh, of place, like specifically this
uh-huh,
place,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
right? Like my axis mundi, right, has its
uh,
own gods, but also
huh,
like in astrology, the
mm,
place, that's the houses,
yeah,
right?
mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm,
like your place matters in
right,
astrology, like the meaning you bring it down to the world with the houses, which are dependent on where you're located in
right,
space and
right,
time.
right, right,
And this
yeah,
idea of the pagan being like of this place
mm-hmm,
here where I stand, and the
mm-hmm,
gods that are here with me in this land where
mm-hmm,
I'm at,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
not the mono,
mm-hmm.
not right, the
The
monad, the
universal, like the
monad,
monad, right.
yeah, the
Yeah.
the 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 overarching just like god of
Uh-huh,
monotheism.
uh-huh. The indiscriminating, um, in a sense, and in some ways, structurally similar to the loss of meaning, the loss of, through and I wish I could remember what you quoted earlier around the about in that the individual or identity is connected into this because it individualizes the understanding of not just self or the construction even of identity, but that it's connected to the relevance of the time and place, right, that an individual finds themselves in. So they're like place becoming almost as important as time in this potentially in this formula, right?
Yeah, they would be uh both necessary. Yeah,
Mhm, mhm,
you can't have one without the other, right? I mean,
mhm.
you can't really have place without time, at least not in a human kind of way.
Right. Yeah. It's one example that I think of that with astrology is that when people tell me, I don't know what time I was born, and I'm like, maybe I'm plugging somebody's birth information in, right? So then all of a sudden, I don't care about where they were born because I don't know what time they were born. So place doesn't matter because there
Right,
is no
you
time.
can't do houses.
Right.
You just said it's
Yeah.
afternoon,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like you don't have angles, you don't have
Right.
houses,
Right,
you
and it's
know?
like, well, we're not trying to go that deep because I don't know what time you were born, so I don't care where you were born, and I mean, that could probably vary, but people will be like, but it says South Carolina, I wasn't born in South Carolina." I'm like, "It doesn't matter because I don't know what time you were born," you know? Um, but yeah, it just made me think of that when you said that, but in terms of the idea of even like paganism and astrology, like that, I thought that what you read about Athena, that an Athena in one place, right, that she was different from depending on where you were.
Yeah, he
That,
says Apollo, um, Mercury, Artemis,
mhm, mhm.
which he was those were the examples, like it
Yeah,
any
but those are
god.
big. Those are big three. Those are yeah,
Oh, yeah.
mythically important. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
significant.
that's thought, sun, and moon,
Hmm. Right.
what he brought up, but yeah, I don't know, why I wanted to read that part on pagan, and like I said, there's another part to this, which is the matter, and the note that I said was philology of pagan and matter with respect to the earth element.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the conclusion I was drawing maybe is that, pagan of place here on earth and matter being materiality. So the bigger discussion I feel like to be had here though is sort of going to be dovetailing off of a philosophical conversation I had with a friend yesterday,
Mhm, mhm,
and where I was challenged by him.
mhm.
He's materialistic. He's a humanist, atheist, vegan, and the veganism um is basically it's about it's about empathy, and then so his basic triad is going to be logic and reason, science,
Mhm.
observable, like
Right.
rationality, right?
Mhm.
um and then empathy, which and then non exploitation.
Okay, those are, like, his 3 core values or his 3.
The it's like it's like it's not just him though. It's like what veganism is
Okay.
philosophically now.
Oh,
So most
okay,
people when
okay.
they think of vegans, they just think, oh, somebody who doesn't eat animals or use animals in any way, right?
Mm.
The reason for is the morality of they apply empathy to not just humans,
Right, okay.
to
Yeah,
all beings
yeah.
that can feel pain.
Uh-huh.
At least this has been, my friend explaining this all to me.
Right.
Because see, it's scientific, right?
You're right. Mhm,
So and then then it's like, okay, well, what about insects?
mhm.
Like you drive a car, you're going to kill a bunch of insects.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So and I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate with him, arguing. We're arguing, you know, and a
Uh-huh.
lot of times I don't even kind of know where I'm arguing from with me and him. But basically, the thing is, I'm like, okay, he says purpose is defined, that he defines his purpose. And
Mhm,
I'm like, well, then purpose is meaningless
mhm,
because you can just define your purpose to be whatever,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, there has to be, but he's like, but he's also saying, the only thing that's real, it has to obey the rules of logic and reason, and it has to have evidence, right?
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
nothing that can't be proven.
Uh-huh. It's
And
real.
so I'm trying to get across what I'm trying and it's helping me really try to understand anyways better this knowing, and where I've gotten to, it's image essentially.
Uh-huh.
That's why
Uh-huh.
Hillman was all about image, right? It's
Right.
a way of knowing, like it's not logos. You can talk about image. That's like a
Right.
picture's worth 1,000 words, right? You can
Right.
use words and talk about image, but you're never get. It's not it though. It's not image. You're just talking about it,
Yeah.
right? It's a way of knowing that you can't prove. You can experience it empirically.
Mhm,
So, for instance, the idea of like life beyond this life, consciousness more than just electrochemical reactions in the brain, which
mhm,
he believes that's what consciousness is. It's just generated in the meat space in our brain. And he's like,
mhm.
but isn't that the most amazing thing ever? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's consciousness is what's more amazing than consciousness. Like in a way, there's no point to anything without consciousness, right? Because if there's nothing to experience anything, then what's the point of anything?
Yeah. Right.
So the road bump I come up, or not the road bump, but like the brick wall I hit with him it's the atheistic, rationalistic, materialistic, you know, notion of the only thing that can be real is what can be proven.
Mhm, mhm. Hmm.
So nothing else is even to be considered. Prove it.
Right.
And if you can't, then it's just nonsense. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to partake in nonsense. I'm not trying to
Mm.
build meaning and purpose around a hallucination.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So does that leave you questioning where meaning lies then? Like what
Well, I'm always doing
is
that.
real? Because yeah, like this is the so we
I want to speak to him and
uh-huh.
people that are like him because I'm akin to that. Like I'm not against science. I'm not
Right.
against rationality and logic and reason and mathematics and science and what we know scientifically. I'm not
Yeah.
against any of that. It's just
Yeah.
that and
Yeah.
that's just left brain.
Yeah.
What about the right brain, which is the true master? You know,
Yeah.
I got this book, The Master and His Emissary,
Yeah.
and it's about left
So
right and how the right brain is actually the one that's in charge.
yeah. Well, I think it's interesting too, because I mentioned that I've been kind of thinking about Lacan a little bit, the French theorist, right?
Mhm.
And he talks a lot about this symbolic order, and he talks about how and the concept of the real is one of his theories in psychoanalytic theory. He was essentially a French theorist, but that's psychoanalytic theory, right? So it ties in with like Freud. He was he obviously studied Freud deeply, but he was pretty critical of like Jung because he thought that Jung's ideas around like meaning and the psyche were too mystical. But then Lacan had this idea or this kind of triad of the imaginary, the symbolic, and the real. So he breaks the imaginary, the symbolic, and the real into three different concepts. And, you were talking about place, which I think is interesting because there's a quote that I found where he says, the real is what always returns to the same place, what resists symbolization absolutely. So, and apparently, and this is something I think you would probably agree with, he said that the real is beyond language and it can't ever be fully expressed or captured in symbols. So we have this limit to our ability to make sense of the world. There's this impossible aspect of experience that we cannot put into we have the imaginary, which would be more like the images that you're talking about, and we have the symbolic, which is the language that's connected to and generates in many ways the images that give us meaning, but the real, according to him, could not be mediated. It returns when we confront a gap in our understanding of what is real. So, like, I mean, I know that probably is highly theoretical as the nature of it is,
Mhm.
but when you're talking about you want to be connected to the real, it makes me think about this idea or this structure that like maybe the real is just one facet of reality, and that there are these other orders, or there's the symbol. If we were to look at it like through a Lacanian lens, the symbolic and the imaginary are just as complex perhaps, or just as meaningful as this idea of the real. And I know that you could define the real in a lot of different ways. And the friend of yours who I hope we can have on and talk to, and
Oh, he'll
maybe
come on. Yeah.
yeah, explore more about this, because it's like the conception. My intuition is like it's a yes and kind of scenario, and you can adopt the additional aspects or facets of reality, or you cannot adopt them, and one isn't necessarily right and the other is wrong either. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's just kind of I mean, that's just where my mind is with some of it, because
I
the
might push back on that though a little bit. When you're saying like what it may be right
go for it.
or
Yeah,
what how exactly did you say it?
it may be, and it may
Well,
be.
you were yeah, you were just saying like either one can be true. I always return to this idea, and I talked to Ben yesterday about this. I was like, "Look, man, this may just be from. I was raised Christian, I had a period of repentance before I was baptized, like as an 8-year-old, where I had to spend a certain amount of time repenting. And it was a big formative uh,
Mm,
incident in my life. And it's like sometimes I feel like I'm just trying to replace what was built then in my psyche with something not Christian.
mhm, mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then uh, up against him and his logic and trying to find a way to like make it something that's just not just nonsense that I believe in life beyond this life,
Mm,
and that it's
mm,
not it's like a matter of for him it's like, well, you can't prove that, like you shouldn't even make claims about things you can't prove. And it's like,
mm,
well, what are you supposed to say to that? Because I'm like, I want to say, like, well, yeah, you have a choice. Like, you can just believe. Like, how could you? Because how could purpose be?
mhm.
How can you have a purpose and it's just something you define? Seems
Yeah.
contradictory to me. Like, how could that be purpose? How is that not nihilism? Which you're saying there's purpose, okay, but that purpose is defined by you. So, whereas nihilism would be the belief in nothing. So, you
Right.
believe in purpose,
Mm,
but then that's a belief, right?
mhm.
You have to
Yeah.
believe. Oh, so and faith came up, like the idea of faith, because I was like, well, and he associates faith with God. He goes straight
Mhm.
to God when you say a word like faith. And I was trying to be like, well, you have faith in science. And he's like, no, I don't have faith in science. It's like, you know, you, you know, I have faith in like what we know. Like he won't accept even the term faith. To him, it's like 100% correct and right and rational
Mhm.
and logical,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
it's just nonsense if it's
Right.
not. If it doesn't fit logic, it's just nonsense. You're just making shit up as far as he's concerned. Like you have no claim to it. Like you can't prove it. You have no way to show it or prove it even to yourself. And I'm like, well, no, like I had an out of body experience which was even more formative for me than even like the whole repenting and being baptized. Cause I remember when I was baptized, I still remember like, and I think this is common for people. Like, I'm like 8 years old. I still can remember, I still have the image of being like dunked under the water in front of the whole church and
Mhm.
being under the water. Like, all right, Jesus, I'm ready for you to enter into my heart. And then like up out of the water I come and I'm like, well, nothing fucking changed. What the fuck? And everyone's, oh, the whole church is clapping, and it's all, and you as
It's
a
a
little kid, you're
miracle.
like, oh, I'm saved, but it's like, what? Nothing changed. What are you talking about? Like, did
Right.
I fuck up? Jesus didn't show up. he didn't. He didn't show
Yeah.
up to fill my heart. You know
Yeah,
what I
like all
mean?
this anticipation of like deep, like significant, yeah, union with this Jesus character and everything that it promises. Yeah.
So fast forward 10 years later, and I'm an atheist dabbling in the occult.
Mhm.
Doing just doing meditation, like imagistic meditations,
Yeah.
and then boom, have this full-fledged out-of-body experience from start to finish. The whole thing, I was awake for the whole process, and you know, and it blew my mind. It's like it's like a BC AD moment in Aaron's life, right? Like it's like before the out of body experience and then after the out of body experience. It changed me forever. For me, it opened the door to the occult and the supernatural and the metaphysical because now for me, that's the most real thing I ever experienced. So like for
Right.
me, it's proof, but I
Right.
can't use that to prove it to anybody else.
But see, that's so wild because that's exactly like that's part of what Lacan talked about with the real is as he defined it that like a certain event, an accident, a death, an out of body experience that can be seen as a real experience because the real what is truly real has an effect on the subject according to him that cannot be directly represented through language or rationality. And so it's like that when we encounter what like you're describing, this kind of gap in the narrative, or this kind of encounter, or this experience that can't be deduced into something that is purely rationalistic, or into a narrative, or like a type of meaning, then this is this is kind of what pressurizes and how we start to understand what is real, though we can never actually prove it. Like you can't prove that. It's a failure to try to do that. And I would be prone to also say that, like, the idea of the kind of extreme rationalistic approach to life, it is sort of the antithesis of the anima, as like
Yeah.
we understand the
Yeah.
unconscious, like the power of the unconscious. and and again, going back to like kind of the structuralist, post-structuralist theorists, it's like the idea that which was sort of avant-garde at the time, but the idea that our unconscious is structured like a language. When we're talking about astrology and meaning, because that's kind of how we were, when you said, hey, these are kind of the things I'm thinking about with, like, with the understanding of meaning, or how astrology creates meaning, or how is meaning constructed, because we know that it can't simply be constructed by the rational mind, because there is a mystery, whether or not, and oftentimes it could be argued that, like, trauma, or like the experiences of trauma, can shut us off to that, to the unconscious, or the dimensions of what is real but can never be proven, and in a way, like, I don't know, you stop me if, like, if this isn't making sense, but where you're having a dialogue or an argument with somebody about whether or not, because you, as a rational mind, that you're not just a rational mind, but like you've had these experiences with life that, to me, sound like you're saying, I can't prove it, but I do know it. I mean, is
Yes.
that kind of how you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's empirical, right? And I said that to Ben. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, look,
Uh-huh.
but his response to that is, well, we know about DMT. Like, we know about hallucinations and how they happen, like,
Mhm.
chemically.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so basically he's just saying, you had a hallucination. It was just a hallucination. And, like, what is my defense to that? See, I
Um,
can't. How do you
mhm.
refute? Okay, sure, but it's like more real than like reality is. Like, it's like a thing that exists, that is real in a way that's different, but also more powerful. And, like,
Mhm.
you can't. The thing is like, you can't prove it. You have
Right.
to, either you're willing to go beyond the rationalistic, logical, mathematical, scientific, observable, provable, or you're
Mhm.
not.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
you're either willing to go beyond that or you're not.
Right. Right. And it comes into, I mean, if you wanted to get deeply enough into trying to prove it and debate, which atheists love to debate with astrologers,
Oh yeah.
I think that the end of the argument doesn't stop there, certainly, because, for example, there's a book when my sister passed away that my dad recommended, and it's I forget what it's called now, but it has to do with, oh shoot, it's basically a doctor who passed away. He was an atheist, and he died. He got very close to death, and he understood all the chemical aspects of the brain. This was why he was an atheist, like, that he would always have refuted the idea that there was any kind of reality beyond the, what do you call it? The meat
Meat
something in the,
space. Yeah.
yeah, the meat space. It's like, so he argued this, right? But like this, when he had this experience, what physiologically happened to his body when he was pronounceably dead, none of the scientific explanations for what happened held up under the circumstances. In other
For
words,
him.
right. And the part of the brain that, like, scientifically, the part of the brain was offline, the part of the brain that would have generated these images and these experiences that he had while he was, quote, dead. So that part of the brain, and I forget what it's called, but it was offline. It was done. It was dead. So he knew, or he came to believe, that that could not have been it could not have been a simply physiological response that was generating his afterlife experience, right? So, I mean, there's places where, and even I think in the archetypal astrology, the Kirion Legrice book speaks to that a little bit with how
Archetypal cosmos.
archetypal cosmos. I can never think of the actual name. Yeah. So many archetypal things,
I
but
know.
yeah, he talks about, I think it references that argument too of, this is, we're just these perceptual beings in this illusory kind of, we when we think there's meaning beyond the synapses, we're just deluding ourselves, and I think it's like a pretty convincing, strong argument, unless you've had an experience or there is some kind of faith deep down inside. And like you said, that could be as simple as a choice. Like, and we've talked about
It
that,
is
I
a
feel like.
choice.
Yeah.
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 And for me, have framed it as it is a choice,
Mhm.
believe in meaning or not. But it's more than that. So like doesn't he's not a nihilist,
Right.
see?
Right. Yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
in debate with me, I end up at being like, well, how is that not nihilism? I
Yeah.
mean, but it's not because
Because
you
it's
have to
missing
say,
spiritus, because there's no spiritus. Yeah. But I mean,
I mean, I don't know. I'd
or
have
is
to
there?
think about that. I'd have to
Yeah.
think about that. I would say it's more. Well, I ended up talking to him
Uh-huh.
about, and I kind of got him to think a little bit about it because
Mhm.
the thing is, it's interesting. He likes myth and the meaning in myth. He likes
Right.
thinking
Right.
about it and talking about myth.
Uh-huh.
And he's interested in astrology. Like he's not reading about it or like he's just open to discussion about what it's about. What is it? Not just as in he's not, oh, it's just woo, it's just a hallucination, but maybe he's like, it's like he's willing to say maybe there's something to it.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
okay, tell me about it because maybe there's something there could be. He's willing to be
Uh,
open to that, but
uh-huh.
at the same
Uh-huh.
time, only only willing to admit whatever can be proven
Mhm. Right, and that's a
rationally.
losing battle. That's because it's like it's apples to oranges. It's like speaking very different languages to try to.
It's just left brain,
Yeah, yeah.
pure, right? Pure left brain.
But and astrology is the astrology is a function of the unconscious, which is not left brain, right? Like,
But there's logic to it though. So it's the
there
thing is
is,
astrology is
uh-huh,
both. It's left and right.
structurally, but, like, going back to the, like, anima mundi, right? It's like, there's logic, but is it derived from spiritual principles that are illogical, or which one, is it derived from a logical system, or is it derived from total irrationality and then a logical system is applied to it in order to give it form and function and beauty, like you would give, like,
Yeah,
a
I would
poem, you would
say
give.
so. Yeah,
Right, like you'd give a
it is
poem a
irrational.
form. Right.
Yeah, the moon is
Just
irrational.
the
I
emotion,
mean,
exactly, thank you, yes, that's it, like, the emotions of a poem, what's ignite, like, when a poem evokes emotion, deep emotion, which is part of why I think it's imagistic, it's like you can give it form, but you're really just putting something that has no form into form, and I think that in some ways that's what astrology is, which is why it's so difficult to prove, although there probably are corollary, like, there's a correlation and a different kind of causation, like going back to, again, Legrice's work, which is like it's a different kind of causation than we typically think of, but there is causality between the origin of the matter and the structure of the universe and the structure of our mind and our psyche, and those two can blend, they can they can connect, but there has to be a conscious desire to connect them, and if without desire, which again goes back to language, because and this Lacanian idea of like the nature of language is just pure desire, like, and so it without that desire to make that connection, it's like it's up it kind of seems like a not like a pointless argument, but just like it's not an argument that's ever gonna have a resolution or any kind of synthesis because it's coming from, like, 2 totally it makes me think of, I told you about the atheist friend of mine that was like, all of these things are really cool as far as to construct meaning and to, play basically. Like,
Yeah.
we're just kinda playing with whatever to entertain
Uh-huh.
ourselves while we're here, and it's like, it's cool in that light, but if you wanna say that there's anything real about it, then that's really going too far, you know? And it's like, okay, well, then what is real? And who is the authority on what is real? And again, like you said, going back to this idea too of authority, where it's like you have to rely on your own authority. We all do it to some capacity. And yet that's also completely insane in a way because, um, there isn't, we're always taking pieces and ideas from everywhere else and then trying to make meaning with that. Um, so yeah.
So yeah, I started with him. I started kind of going into some Neoplatonist thing ideas like Plato's. I was like, so do you know about Plato's like forms, right? His perfect
Ah,
like his ideas. And
right.
I was like, he's like, no, what's that? Oh, well, okay, so it's like new sphere, first of all.
Uh-huh.
So this is mind, it's pure mind, right? But it's like the idea of there is a perfect dog, just as an example, that exists
Yeah.
only in the new sphere though. It has like a
Mhm.
form, a perfect idea, and that all dogs are trying to express this perfect idea, right? But but none can,
Mm,
right? That it's
mm,
like the idea. My understanding is anyway that what Plato was saying is that the perfect dog exists only in the new sphere, though, right? Yeah,
right.
only as an idea, but not that then, but that's more real than what we experience as an actual dog. See,
Mhm.
like it's not
Mhm.
he wasn't then saying that's not real because it's only in the new sphere. He's saying that's the most real
Mhm.
and the most perfect.
Mhm.
And then I told him I was like, and it's like the soul and the spirit, you know, and we're in the middle, you know,
Mm, mhm.
and I've been meditating on this a lot myself, like daily here lately. It's like trying to figure out there's soul and spirit, right? It's Dionysus and Apollo,
Mhm.
Psyche and Eros, you know? And then like we're in the middle,
Mhm.
right? I mean, those two things come to it's and as above, so below. I feel like people think as above being the stars, so below being down here on earth. I think
Mhm.
of that differently. I think of it as above spirit, so below soul. And then in the middle is where we are, in between
Mhm.
those things. That's the
Mhm.
ternary that breaks the binary. We do that. Our existence does that because those two things exist independently. They come together here on earth in
Mhm.
material reality as human beings. Like we hold that space in the middle between those two things.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 That's interesting too. That's interesting too. Yeah. And the holding of the same. It's like it's not what it's between the material and the imaginal realms, between the symbolic and the material, that it's that is like creating the
Well, I would say it's
kind of
between the spirit and like the spirit, the material is a function of like the soul and the spirit coming together.
mhm, mhm.
Right. Like
Yeah,
it's that's the polarity.
right,
Polarity is soul spirit,
right.
but it's not just a binary, right? Like that's a binary, but the real breakthrough comes in the triangle.
Right.
Yeah, the first
Yeah.
shape that you can actually bring through a Vesica Pisces is the triangle.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Really?
yeah, the
Huh.
3 points. That's why the
Uh-huh.
Trinity. So I mean, really, this is where the meaning of fundamentally the meaning of the Trinity in geometry anyway is expressed in the monad divides right into the two
Dyad?
dyad. Yes, thank you.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
The monad divides into the dyad. So you have
Mhm.
2 circles that forms the vesica Pisces, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then the first thing that comes through is the triangle. Is you have
Ah.
a line with 2 points,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
those 2 points are the center of the 2 circles that draws the line. And then you have your vesica, right? And then the point where the 2 circles come together at top, you draw those down to the points of the lines, and you have a triangle.
Mhm.
So the dyad forms
Mhm.
the triad,
Huh.
the 3,
Right.
which is the pyramid. And
Well,
also,
it's
I wasn't trying to go there. I went back into the sacred geometry because of the Trinity,
right.
talking about
Okay.
above and below and here.
Exactly.
The
Right.
child, it's like the child of above and below is us,
Right.
the
Right.
Trinity, and
Yeah.
why the Trinity is so important, which in Christianity became obviously the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost.
Mhm.
But that
Mhm.
Trinity is not Christian, as in they don't get to have the Trinity and it just be a Christian thing. It
It's
existed way before Christianity did. The
right,
Trinity
because in some ways it's reflective of a structural, like, aspect of human.
coming into materiality.
Yes, that's the thread that I was, like,
Yeah,
hoping you
okay.
would connect. Yeah,
Sure.
no, but I couldn't articulate it, though. I couldn't put it, but you got
I
it.
can
You
go
found.
so many places with that though, because
Yeah.
it's so rich in meaning
Yeah, it
in
is.
so many
It
different
is.
ways. Like it all, like when you're talking about the geometry here, because you're
Uh-huh.
talking about not just math,
Uh-huh.
you're talking
Uh-huh.
about like math manifesting into reality. And the
Yeah.
Vesica Pisces is like the womb through which materiality comes to be, which
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
matter, which is
Mhm.
mother.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
even the shape, right? It's an almond shape, like a yoni. It's the vagina
Uh,
that we're born into reality through.
yeah, I
It's
was like, I've
literally,
always I've always heard it yoni, but I
oh,
but
maybe
yeah, I
this
got it.
probably is
It
yoni then. I'm
You
not,
might be saying it right. Not
you know,
that it matters. It really doesn't matter. It's
I would bet that,
potato, potato.
no, no, no. I would bet that you're saying it correctly, seeing as how you teach, you know,
Mm,
Kundalini yoga. I mean,
mhm.
I would
But
definitely defer to your pronunciation of so yoni. You're saying yoni,
yoni,
yoni.
yeah,
It's yoni.
I could
Okay,
be wrong. I'll have
vagina.
to look
I
it
know
up.
that's right. It's vagina.
Right. You can say that
It's,
on television now. Um,
yeah,
but
or
yeah.
giner. It's a giner.
Yeah. Whatever she wants to call it, Aaron. No.
I'm talking
So
about materiality here. It's
right.
like,
I'm just
but
so am I. So am
and
I.
and when you talk about like the philology of
Yeah.
the word material, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. Mother. The word matter, the Latin word mater, is the word for mother.
Mhm. Yeah. Right. Right.
Material is related.
Right.
Materiality, right?
Yeah.
The earth element, like all of that, all has the same origin, which is, you know, the Vesica Pisces, the yoni.
Right. Yeah, and that actually is actually connected to the real as well. Like the concept of the real where like that connection with mother, it is pre-linguistic. It is pre-language, it's pre-meaning, right? And so and it's pre-symbol, right? We can't so there is I mean that is as real like as anything could possibly be, like the birth canal, right? Like into form,
It's a
into
portal.
yeah,
Yeah, a doorway. Like it's a portal into corporality, into
yeah,
materiality.
right,
But
right,
but it's like, yeah, so then boom, we're born into materiality, right?
right,
And it's like that's the only thing that's real,
yeah,
right? Scientifically, if you're
right,
like Finn, is saying like that's it.
mhm, mhm, right,
Well, you came through a doorway into materiality. But where'd you come from? I mean,
mhm,
you just
mhm,
like, I'm
yeah,
not trying to say
yeah,
God
right, right,
in a monotheistic kind of way. I mean, but at the
yeah,
same time, it's contradictory It's like you
Yeah.
can't get away from this idea of the monad. Like,
Right.
that is God. The idea is the circle with the center.
Mhm.
That's God, the monad. But, like, it doesn't but it has to explode out into the 10,000 things or whatever, into it, because otherwise it doesn't exist. And
Yeah.
then once that explosion happens, like, you have many gods,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
That's
those gods are concerned with your place.
yeah.
And because your place is different, we need more than one god. Like, we need gods of place. I don't know. It's like, and in Christianity, even, like, okay, monotheism, right? You have one God, but you know what? They had angels. Or what are
Mhm.
angels? If not, okay, you're not going to call them gods, all right, but they're not humans. They're they're uh they're they're powers beyond us, right? Even in the Christian idea of an angel.
Mhm.
Well, they just turned the gods into angels.
Yeah. Right.
So it's really the same damn thing anyway. Like, monotheism, polytheism, really, they're it's semantics. It's rhetoric. I mean,
Yeah.
really,
Right.
how
Which
you're
is the
defining it.
right. It's the realm of the imaginary, it's you can't or the symbolic because you're trying to tie language or use language to be able to create and it's like it goes back to the astrology of it too because where just like they talk in sometimes in like when you're dealing with like the energy of consciousness, right, as we define it, like shakti or like from the Hindu kind of conception of this energy. It's like, well, if you're locked into that, so an extent, you can't it has to be experienced, you can't describe it. And the same thing with when you have an astrological, you know energetic of what happens or occurs with your attention to and your relationship with it. It's experiential in certain ways. You can tell the story of it, and you can, but you're still outside of it. Then you're still trying to kind of tell the narrative. And I think with astrology, it's as real as anything else in the experiential realm or in the symbolic realm, and the deep internal realm. I don't know, I'm probably going off here on a tangent myself, but
Well, that's what we do here in Chiron's Cave,
that's
right?
that's what we do, yeah, to bring
It's
whatever
a
kind of awareness is going to give personal meaning, hopefully,
it's a
and
prolonged tangent.
it
we're
is a prolonged
we're
tangent.
sharing
That's right, that's right.
for all to
Taking
hear.
turn taking turns tangenting, and that's quite alliterative. But yeah.
Going off on tangents.
Yeah. It's a tangent train.
Right off you know what a tangent is with a circle?
Uh-uh.
A tangent, so you have a circle. A tangent is just a line that hits the circumference going in some
Ah.
direction. That's a tangent.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. So we're traversing the tangent, the geometrical tangents. Yeah.